What's up and welcome everyone, DJ 8 here. Hoping you are doing good and safe during these times. It's been a little while since my last video was taking care of the adult homeowner responsibility business type stuff. Lots of work. Anyway, okay. So a few people wanted to know what it was like being in the 1992 US Finals. Mostly because the 90s was a really hard time to be battling in, and more specifically, what it's like to be in the same battle with some really heavy hitters like Qbert, Mixmaster Mike, Apollo, Rob Swift, Rock Raider, rest in peace. Also at that time, I was pretty new to the battle scene. This was only my second major battle. Before that, the only big one I was in was the previous 92 West Coast, where I pulled off the miracle upset victory. Before that, I think I had maybe 3 other battles and were just local or in-store club battles. The environment of the Bay Area battle DJs in the 90s was like swimming with sharks, basically. As I said before, you had Qbert, Mixmaster Mike, Apollo, DJ Disc, DJ Quest, like you got DJ Shortcut and D Styles, as the list goes on. And one again, that's just in the Bay Area alone. Okay, so here I am now in New York, a couple months after the West Coast competition. DMC sent me the plane ticket and I haven't been to New York since I was a teenager. I brought a friend who's never been to New York before, so we got to make it basically a fun touristy type trip a little bit. So one of the first things I had to do when I got there the week of the competition was go to the DMC office and actually buy the mixer. I believe it's like the PMC 05 it was called, that was being used in the battles, and I didn't actually have one at home to practice with. As a matter of fact, before that I was using the Stanton/Vestax Tricks mixer. It was the one with the really tiny crossfader and the really short up faders. But this being the US Finals, I wanted to be able to practice on the actual mixer itself. Oh, funny thing, the mixer didn't even come with the power plug on it. It had the cord, so the cord was actually on the mixer, but there was no plug at the end of the cord. So after buying it, I also had to find a hardware store, buy the plug and the little tools, just a little screwdriver, and be able to attach a plug and, wind the wires over to the plug and everything. All right, I did bring my turntables and I actually brought anvil cases, shout out Manor Music in Pacifica, so they could be safely making the trip. So I had the turntables and the mixer set up in my hotel room. We only stayed maybe like 2 nights in downtown Manhattan before I was able to get a hold of an uncle that I have that lives out there in Queens. I haven't seen that guy since I was back there when I was a teenager. But he pretty much insisted that we stay at his place because his oldest daughter is away in college and his son was out of town at the same time. I've only met him that one time, but hey, Filipino and family is family, like that. Funny thing is, he is kind of a scary dude with a temper, as I recall. And the story that I heard from others in my family is that he used to be some kind of gangster or thug in the Philippines. So he brought that attitude over, even though he's now a family man. So the night of the DMC, I get checked in and I'm backstage, or rather on the side of the stage, talking to the other DJs and meeting them for the first time in my life. Now these are guys I totally looked up to and I was always in awe watching their routine on tape. Of course, I say what's up to Q, Mike, and Apollo and chatted up with Rob Swift, and I really hit it off with Rock Raider. We seemed to really just be cool with each other. We were asking each other if we knew anyone else in the battle. I also met Clark Kent back there, and most notably Steve D. To me, the godfather of beat juggling. DJ Red Alert was MC, and there was one other OG guy that I'm not gonna name just yet. He made it a point to meet me right after my set. So of course, I'm a bit nervous and excited and wowed by all this veteran talent around me. From my perspective, I'm the new guy. I was really concerned though, my style was going to go bad with the East Coast crowd. I've seen the tapes of them for the past couple of weeks, but I didn't have enough time since the West Coast competition to add or change anything to my routine. Also, from watching tapes, I know the East Coast crowd can be vicious if they don't like you. They will boo you to the point where you can start losing confidence and concentration on your routine, and it's just downhill from there, and you might even just get booed right off the stage. Now, keep in mind at the time, I didn't have any beat juggles or patterns, just cool looking gimmicks really, like the crazy fast fader flipping and, you know, some of the body trick stuff with the hat. The only thing that would save me that night was probably, I would say, the test tones. I'm nervous and concerned from that perspective, and after watching the others, I'm standing there next to Steve D, and I said to him, I don't know, I don't think people are gonna like my style here. I don't think it's gonna go good here. And Steve looks down at me, you know, because he's a really big, tall dude, like maybe over 6 feet tall, and I'm this little 5'6" Asian guy. He said to me, have confidence in your own style, no matter what. Don't worry, I've seen you. I've seen you. And that made me feel good. That actually boosted me up a little bit. So eventually it's time for my set, and I do my routine. And I'm doing my routine, I'm making sure I'm checking all the boxes. Remember the timing, remember the pattern, don't look down a lot, look like I'm having fun, look at the crowd. And at some point when I looked at the crowd, that was, for the most part, I guess silent or wasn't going crazy, I see a guy staring back at me, shaking his head. And it was like, nope, you suck, dude. It wasn't until I got to the test tone part of my routine where I think I actually got a good reaction from them. And at that time, I only knew the nursery rhyme test tones. I didn't know G-Thing because the song wasn't even out yet, or Iron Man, or Don't Stop the Rock. I only knew what you heard in that battle and maybe one more that I decided couldn't fit into the routine. And then I had the big gimmick trick where it was the extended needle gimmick. Basically, I took an extra needle head shell and extended the wires from the turntable to the head shell so that I could play 2 needles on one record, just for show though, of course. It sounded like absolute crap. I wouldn't recommend trying that again. Now, before I talk about what happened right after my set, I want to talk about watching Q, Mike, and Apollo. And at that time, they were now also entered as the Rocksteady DJs. Previously, they were mistakenly called The Shadow over at DMC West Coast. And they were, of course, the unquestionable winners. They were the last ones up. Q was considered to be the defending champion from the previous year, or maybe it's because they had the multiple turntables set up and they just needed more time to set up. They didn't want to be tearing up and breaking down in between other DJs. So as you saw in the video, they just blew the crowd and the judges away. Now, you also have to remember, this is the first time teams are allowed in the DMC. And to my knowledge, other than the West Coast, there was no other teams in any of the regional battles. And again, there's no internet, so there's no sharing videos across the ways. Only way of sharing videos is through dubbing and old school mail. That means the majority of people there never seen or heard what a DJ team would sound like. Their routine, it was like just way tighter and more together than what you saw over at the West Coast competition. Night and day difference. Total shock and awe. Now, here's the funny part. So, back then you were pretty much allowed to bring your video camera with you. It's not like nowadays where there's no filming allowed due to internet. So my friend Billy, who was in the back of the club to get the full view of the DJs, had the video camera. We're talking like the big shoulder cam, full-size VHS recorder. And he was recording some parts, including DJ setting up and breaking down, just so he doesn't accidentally miss something. And so during Rocksteady's setting up, you can hear people making fun of them for having a team. You actually hear laughing and comments like, oh, haha, they're gonna be a tag team. What the hell is this? And when Red Alert introduced them as from San Francisco, you hear very clearly on the tape, someone near the camera, maybe the left side or right side, he actually said, take your ass back to San Francisco. Now again, they totally destroyed everyone in my opinion. Most of all me, I guess. But right after they finished their set, you hear the same guy say they f***ed that shit up. You can hear in his tone like, sorry man, I take back what I said, you guys win. Now from there, all you know, Rocksteady, they would go on to the World Finals, take it by storm as well, and that's history there. All right, so another weird thing that DMC had to do with me that night. Up to that point, I still haven't received the official DMC US Finalist jacket for winning the West Coast. They told me over the phone they were gonna give it to me when I showed up in New York, which was all good. But when I got there that night, they told me they needed to hang on to it so that they can have something to present to whoever won. So basically, they presented Q, Mike, and Apollo with my jacket, and then I had to go collect it from Q later on when we got back to San Francisco. But let's get back to the end of my set for that one extra person I met that night. Right after my set, I got a not bad reaction, if anything. I wasn't booed off stage like I feared, but I was taking my records off the setup, getting ready to walk off stage. Another big guy walks up to me and stops me right before getting off stage, and he says, hey, let me see your hands. Let me look at your hands. And Red Alert, he's still with the mic, and he says like, yeah, show him your hands. The guy grabs my hands, right? He looks down at them. He looks at Red, and he says, he's got them. He's got the hands. And Red Alert was agreeing and confirming with them. He's like, he's got him? Yeah, he's got him. The man that looked at my hands and said that I got it was none other than Cool DJ Herc. And Billy later tells me, dude, it's like your hands were blessed. Yeah, so there you have it. That's my story from my perspective and what it was like to be in the middle of all that during those times. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully I might have more in the future for you. All right. Oh yeah, hold on. Walking back to the car. All right. So we called my crazy ex-gangster uncle to pick us up from the club, and he met us outside, and we were walking with him to his car, down the little streets or alleys in New York, and he kept looking around over his shoulder, like making sure nobody can see us. And when we passed by this dumpster, he said, oh, hold on, there's something I have to get. And he puts his foot down behind the dumpster. He kicks out a small paper bag that was hidden behind it, and you could hear like something rattling inside it, something hard and metallic. Then he looked around again. He picked it up, stuck it inside his coat. We think it was like a weapon, maybe even a gun.